allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good morning, everyone. That will show up. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of the agenda for today's meeting, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. And as we do every month, I'm going to ask for a volunteer, but since everyone here has volunteered to take notes, save for one committee member, I think we should have that committee member take notes on the meeting. I just think it's fair. It's balanced. So Sherry, if you wouldn't mind, please take notes for the meeting today.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the September 24th meeting. There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? I'll have one discussion item. Thank you, Bob. We got the answers from the questions that we sent to the finance department late yesterday, and you added them to the minutes. Here is a copy of the minutes. That's the version that we are voting to approve. Any questions on that? So thank you for getting that in there. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of the minutes from the September 24th meeting, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public comments. There's no one here, so we'll move to the next item on the agenda as a review and discussion of our September 2025 monthly financial report. As we do every month, we'll go page by page. I will open the floor for comments, questions, and any other discussion items. The first page, our operating account summary. Any questions, comments, concerns on that one? Very good. All right. Next item is the operating results page. Believe it or not, I have no comments either. It's pretty straightforward. Not a whole lot of items on here. It is noteworthy that although on the first page where we had reported that the revenues were under by 16,000, but if you'll note that the expenses for the month were down significantly, 71,000. I thought that was interesting. So, and I couldn't see anything specific to that. Just it's we're still well ahead of budget, favorable budget. All right. Any other questions on our operating results? All right. Next page is net operating by department.
What's the value in price? All the other.
Good morning, Jack.
Doors locked.
I tell you, this is a secret meeting. That's why.
Listen,
You got to know the secret handshake.
no, wait a minute. The reason that I'm late
Okay.
was because of road construction on Beach,
Okay.
otherwise pronounced Beauchamp.
Bochamp.
But it's not really Beauchamp, it's Beecham. And you know why? Do you know why?
Why? Enlighten me.
Because one of the French allies, when the British owned Normandy back in the 15th century, one of the British allies was the Beauchamp family. And when they lost Normandy, the Beauchamps had to move back to England. Well, the English hate the British, and the British hate the French. Okay? So they changed their name from Beauchamp to Beecham.
Is that
But
it?
they spelled it the same way.
All right, so that was in the 1500s. So what's that? A 500-year-old?
So my excuse for being late.
Okay. It's very, very, creative. I will give you that one. I've never heard somebody on late because of a 500-year-old naming issue. Hey, so
I love you, Doug. We go way back.
Yeah.
I love this guy.
Yeah. No, by the way, that was recorded.
Good luck.
All right, let's get back on track, folks. Thanks, and welcome, Jack. So we are up to the net operating by department. So Randy, you were saying?
I'm trying to figure out the value of this. Versus the other. Get this thing,
Mhm.
what am I looking at?
Okay, I personally, I like it because to me, I've said this on a number of occasions. I'm very much into comparing one year to the next. Meaning when you're looking at the, the actuals from the previous year to the actuals for this year. And plus, it also looks to me, since you break it down by department, although you're right, the individual reports would break down by department, but this also has food and beverage, which we don't get a specific report for anymore, and a couple of other things. So I think it tells the kind of picture, just coming up from a summary perspective, and if something was kind of out of whack, I think it would show up here. So I look at it from that perspective. Does it tell the whole story? No, because it's by design, it's a summary report. But
And why don't we get food and beverage?
because we don't need to. Before the Touch Italy took over, we had a much different structure, but contractually, really all we need to worry about is the receivables from the lease and the receivables from the 6%. Everything else is handled contractually. So there's and it's a business operation. It's a Touch of Italy business operation, not a budget and finance issue. Other than again looking at this line on the report saying we've got income from both those sources. Anything else on the only thing I noticed on this one, well, actually two. Aquatics took a little bit of a hit this month, although if you look at the year-to-date actuals, they're far ahead of where they were last year. So what does that mean? I don't know yet. It's just an observation. If you look at, and of course, you look at the racket sports, the same thing. Although again, racket sports is down quite a bit in net operating. So again, I think that we said we would continue to look at that. It is gestating into a year-long issue that the board and the GM will take a look at and make a decision on what they would do, if anything, to change things. But other than that, I think that overall net operating we're doing quite a bit better than to the tune of like $400K better than we were at this time last year. So anything else on net operating by department? All right. Operating summary. If you look at the revenue, the net revenue from last year is a little bit higher than it was from the current year. Now, again, is that any indication or anything? I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of programs have changed here and there. But
I had that. That was a couple $1 million. Year to date,
900,000.
yeah, it's about
the year versus last year.
A lot there.
yeah. But if you also not that I'm always defending the budget, don't get me wrong, but also look what was budgeted. If you look at year-to-date budget of 10.8 and year-to-date actual 11.0, they're right on budget. So yes, is it different from last year? I don't know. Is that a question we should bring up? And again, if you recall, one of the things that I'd mentioned in a previous meeting is that operating years change. A lot of stuff stays the same, but there are some things that change from year to year. And while I'm a big advocate of comparing year to date from a previous year to the year to date numbers from the current year, you also have to take into consideration that the operating environment is a little bit different, say from year to year. So, I always have that in mind when I'm looking at those numbers and just say, oh, well, it's down 900,000. Well, maybe it's down by design because they eliminated a program or they changed the way they, do something. So, again, it's well noted. I'm glad everybody notes these things. I think that, if it becomes a question that we want to ask the finance team, we can certainly do that. Anything else on operating summary? All right. Next report is racket sports. Somebody has to have a comment. I'm not gonna be the only one talking. Okay.
Budget. Revenue
Randy.
number dues, actual month actual versus budget. Not painting a pretty picture.
Well, then add the classes and clinics and facility rentals in there, and you got a big chunk,
Tournament.
you know.
Yeah, you really can't do a whole lot with this until the evaluation from a year. Because we don't know that yet. It's just like food and beverage. We can't really compare last year to this year at this month in time until we get a full year of May, from May forward.
Yeah, and that's a good point. One of the things that I've always thought about is that, you know, some people were, I don't want this to be a bad term, but reactionary. They saw the new fee structure, said, you know, I don't like it, I'll go elsewhere. Now, after a year, after going elsewhere, they may reconsider. I would fully expect to get some percentage of people that walked away and said, no, we're not doing this. Some of them are gonna come back and, well, you know what, given all the other factors that, you know, they personally would consider, yeah, maybe I will come back, or at least petition the board and the, you know, and the GM to consider some changes. Don't know, but, you know, I agree. I think, you know, we've talked about this at previous meetings, we stay consistent and talk about it and say, we're watching it, we're gonna let it go an entire year, and, you know, we'll see what happens.
You have the new building now,
Mhm.
and that was during, sign up time around that time.
That's another good point.
And then now you have the refurbished courts that they're doing the maintenance and all. So now you'd have to wait and see a whole year to see if they will come back. So it's kind of hard to judge right now.
Yeah. And we're going into the winter season too, so, play, you know, outdoor play kind of tails off as it does every year.
And you can make a new judgment as to what you want to change.
Other comments, thoughts, questions on racket sports?
The maintenance was the only question I have. You look at year-to-date actual, it's 63,508.
Yeah,
The budget for the year was 46,425. So you're already roughly 17,000 over budget. Now, is that just an unplanned expense?
so is that one of the questions you'd like to forward to the finance department, just saying, you know, what was it an unbudgeted expense that came up in the form of an emergency spend?
You gotta do what you gotta do to maintain.
Yeah, it's not a problem. Okay, so,
It exceeded the budget already and you're only 5 months into the year.
on maintenance, yeah. Okay, I'll add that as our first question. All right, anything else on racket sports? Don, anything from you?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right, moving on. Beach parking. Pretty self-explanatory.
And the wages and benefits, 5 months into the year, we're at we're 100% of the budget.
Closed.
What's gonna happen for the next,
Nothing. It's closed.
I mean, they close down at some point, but there's gonna be some activity, I think.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if those expenses would be carried in public works rather than the beach club budget.
Yeah.
Since it's not operating, I mean, to me, I got a difference between operating and maintaining. You know, maintenance costs and operating costs are a little different. I would think that, so we'll keep an eye on that for next month to see how many, how much was assigned to wages and benefits with beach parking, and then maybe that turns into a question saying, well, if we're not operating,
Yeah.
you know, we need to know from a budget, you know, long-term budget perspective, what would cause wages and expenses other than maintenance. Yeah, or, you know what, Frank, that might be it. They may just be allocating X amount of expenses so that it's distributed throughout the 12 month.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right.
It's $8,000 over what they budget,
Mhm.
so I don't know.
Okay.
It's a question.
All right, why don't we agree, let's look at that for next month. And if there is any question regarding wages and benefits at the beach club, we'll turn it into a question and try to get, you know, an explanation as to why things to happen that way, but Frank, I think you might have hit it. They might have, I've seen a lot of things. I've done it in my professional life in the past where you allocate the expenses over a longer period of time, so, you know. All right, anything else on beach parking? Okay, next item is aquatics. Yeah, I noticed aquatics, the revenues were down from budget by 10K, but.
Daily fees.
Yeah, daily fees are down significantly. That was the crux of the, of the shortfall in revenue. But, and if you look, year to date last year, from a revenue perspective, they were, almost 100K more with 90K more there. And then, net operating from, year to date actuals was about what, 31K better than last year. Last year was, I'm sorry, let me back up. We're doing better year to date this year in net operating than we did last year by 31K. So, it's interesting how that works out. And I guess it's good management, managing the maintenance, the wages, and matching it to exactly what it is that they need there. So the expense side is well under control. Anything else on aquatics? Nope. Okay. Next item is combined golf ops. On that one. We're still doing. Of course, has come back too,
Of course, it comes back very well.
like it does every year. Yeah, I mean, everything there is in line.
New stuff coming on the tees too, they're redoing most of the tees that are selling them.
They're redoing the tee box on number 3.
Three.
I like, I like the current tee box on number 3.
Yeah,
Make me
makes it
feel like a
all
okay, anything else on combined golf ops? That was pretty solid, has been solid throughout the year. Next item is marinas. I know it was at look at the 50K variance to budget and the revenue. They budgeted for 129K worth of revenue, they got 80, so.
That's the sales are way down.
Yeah. I mean, it's still not an issue. Again, total not year to year is a little bit different, but, it's much better this year. But if you remember last year, there were a number of days where they had small craft warnings, and that contributed to, lower operating environment last year. So, this year clearly is, I guess it also does prove that, had there not been those small craft warning days where people weren't taking their boats out, they'd be right up there.
One of the things I've always been curious about the marinas is whether or not the sale of our gas and the price of our gasoline is competitive and comparable to what other marinas are selling their gas for. And the feedback that I've gotten, and I don't know if it's correct or not, but the feedback that I've gotten is that we're always the lowest guy in town. I don't know if that's good or bad.
I've heard the same thing where the gas prices are very competitive and it's drawing in, a lot of folks. It's the old economic rule of supply and demand. If the demand goes up, the price is going to go up a little bit. I don't know. That's one of those ones where I believe it's a coin toss. You say, oh, well, how much more revenue could we gain at the cost of losing some customers? In other words, if I lose 1% of my customers, but my costs are up by, some, per gallon, then I could do the calculation and say, and at the end of the day, is it worth it?
People will shop for a penny.
It's the
They will shop for
intangible,
a penny.
right? The intangible of saying, hey, did you hear
You never
that
know.
Ocean Pines raised their prices?
It might be
Word of mouth
worthwhile,
gets out.
might be worthwhile to do a survey and see if, how competitive we are. In other words, are we 10 cents cheaper per gallon? A penny? 5 cents?
Yeah.
I really don't know. And how you would do that, I'm not quite sure I know how you would do that.
I asked somebody with a boat that, I mean, when I had my boat and was using it, yes, the marina was always a little bit cheaper, but not a whole lot. But it was convenient, and that was the big thing.
This is the
You know, if you look right at
Going to.
Yeah, it was right. Gas prices here in Racetrack Road, you can see where they're playing games back and forth for a nickel or 2 cents a gallon. But I was looking at it, they're getting a 20% margin. I mean, they're gaining 20% in the sales, so. You know, why do you want to get greedy
Good
with
point.
your own owners? Most of the people,
Which draws more, visitors to the yacht club with the lower price, because while they're over here, they might go to the yacht club. And by raising prices, so one could affect the other possibly.
It's a good point. Yeah, I mean, it's a good discussion point that, you know, do we need to ask if anything should be done about it? I'll leave it up to the committee. I mean, is it?
I think it's working.
Yeah, so I'm thinking.
It's in a broke way, fix it.
Yeah, that's right there, fix it.
It's noted and no action required at this point.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, anything else on marinas? All right,
One more thing, I just have a question.
Jerry.
Is there a big waiting list still for, new boaters to have a slip?
I do not know. I suspect there is.
Because it's not, if you're gonna mess with pricing, it might be to raise a little bit in that piece of it. Because you have a waiting list where people can fill in, but to mess with the gas price, where people are always looking to cut expenses, especially in gas.
Yeah.
Food and gas, might be something to look at.
Yeah, I know that, in previous years, the boat slip rates were always in question. And, you know, there was some logic would say, well, if we've got such a big waiting list, why don't we raise the price? You know, because we're not gonna lose any customers, right?
Right.
It's just something to look
That's-
at, and you
that's
have
sound.
to raise it, you know, tremendously, but maybe even look at if it's worth it.
Yeah, that's one of those. You know, if I was handling the operation side of it, I would look at that as kind of an emergency action, meaning I have that in my hip pocket, and I used to use the term hip pocket all the time when I was on the board, so my colleagues would laugh at it about that, but the idea would be, you know, it's working, you know, it's giving the kind of revenue we would expect, it's competitive with other boat slip rates in the area. At the end of the day, you know, if something else happened in another part of the operation, you know, then it might be saying, well, we have this alternative here where we could look at increasing prices for boat slips as a way to generate some more revenue to cover maybe a shortfall in another area. You know, personally, I like when things are working. The idea is don't just get complacent. In other words, keep looking at it, keep saying, is it okay, good, all right? And then next, is it still there? Yes, okay. If it's not still there, what do we need to do to change? So,
Yeah, it just could be an alternative to raising prices for gas. Because if the prices are good at gas, other people are gonna come here besides the boat slip owner.
Right.
mhm.
And then they may park their boat and go to the yacht club or
Yeah.
come back to it, you know, just a thought.
Just a question, do we have more slips over this year? 'Cause last year it was 216 year to date, and we're 260 this year to date. Either raise the price of the slips or they added more
They
slips.
did raise the price of the slips.
They did
Yeah.
raise them.
Yeah.
So, well,
Yeah.
$40,000 worth.
Anything else on marinas? All right, the next part of the report is our reserve summary. 8.6 million. There, the treasurer's report should, no, John's financial report, I'm sorry, will have, I don't remember, it's here somewhere where the target balance for the end of the fiscal year for the reserves is always published. In other words, this is where we want to be. So John and team always look at, you know, where you're drawing money off the reserves in order to get us to that number.
When do they start working on the budget? This month?
This month, yeah. So we'll get to that in our next item on the, or next couple items on the agenda. Anything else on reserves? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We're in good shape there. All right. Next report is capital summary. It keeps going down.
Hydraulic
Yeah.
mechanism.
And no jokes about weight, okay?
I didn't say that.
Capital summary, there was nothing there that jumped out to me. Anybody else? Pretty much on track with what was budgeted. All right. Next item is the balance sheet.
Prepaid.
Give me the answer to that in. I'll go back, look, I believe that was answered in a previous meeting. That previous response from the finance department. I will make a note to go
We
back.
talked about accounts receivable.
Yeah.
Bad debt.
All right. I'll make a note to take a look at that and say, you know, what is prepaid other? And if we haven't had that answered already, we'll send it as a question. Anything else on the balance sheet? All right. And then the last item is our cash investments. We're at right now 17.1 million. Broken down, as you see. Good financial shape there. Anything else on that? All right, seeing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, and that's a discussion of the convenience fee resolution.
One,
Randy, before we move ahead.
the membership report has been dropped. So
Yes, it has. Is it something that we need?
I don't know. I mean, it's part of the story right now for the Frank Club, but they just seem to drop out from reports.
All right, let's request the membership report then. All right. All right. Okay. Convenience fee resolution, to give you guys a little bit of a background. This is not. Oh, wait a minute, before we move on to that, my bad, I stand corrected. The next item on the agenda, my apologies, was report to answers from the questions from the September meeting. All right. So the first question we had from the September meeting was on the operating account summary report, what makes up the 790K of revenue listed under other fees and income. And the response is the main components are the following line items: interest income of 218K, casino road funds of 213K, CPI revenues, inspection, filing fees, resale certifications of 82K, franchise fees of 75K, county roads revenue of 48K, EDU fees of 33K, transfer fees of 24K, and advertising revenue of 20K. So there's a lot of components to, and I get why, you know, they don't, if you listed every item, on a summary report, then it's not a summary report anymore, it's a detailed. So I'm okay with that, but, there it is. On the second question we had was on the net operating by department, what contributed to the 24K variance of the monthly budget under general admin? And it's primarily attributed to 25K in additional revenue recognized for casino funds. Okay. And then the third and final question was on the operating summary. Is the 77K variance in the year-to-date actuals from this year compared to last year due to a change in the operational volume or some other factor? Okay. And then assuming you mean the 797K difference in operating, the bottom line difference in year-to-date actuals was driven by a reduction in the internal transfer of in and out of funds necessary for this year, along with the timing of F&B revenues that are spread more evenly between months this year due to the leasing agreement. The reduction of the internal transfer of funds and timing of the F&B revenues were covered extensively in the budget process. So that's clearly explaining what it is that they did for us. All right. All right, next item on the agenda was the discussion of the convenience fee resolution. And it's really a minor issue. It's no big deal. Bob had asked about it. So I said, I figured we'd bring it up. So as history goes, there's a, in the book of resolutions, under the F resolutions, which are the financial ones, there is one resolution that's unnamed, but it's the convenience fee. It's a document. Perfectly fine. So I brought it up last year saying, hey, why don't we think about making it a full resolution, meaning a named resolution. That's the better term. Okay, because it's still a resolution. It's still in the books. I just said, why don't we just, call it F06 and have it go through the normal process. The response I got was, well, it's being reviewed by legal, okay? And not for the format of a resolution, but for the legality and any other, associated requirements with charging a convenience fee for the use of a credit card, okay? So that was a while ago. So all I want to do, if the committee thinks it's okay, so just ask them again, do you want to consider making this an F level resolution? And, because, and when it was presented, and I got a copy of it right here, none of the verbiage was changed. All it was reformatting the document so that it was read just like other resolutions. None of the terms and conditions were ever changed. So that was my kind of requirement. It's like, there's no reason for us to have to worry about changes. We're not changing anything financially or legally. We're just formatting the document to meet our governance document format, okay?
The questions I had, are we charging it now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a resolution on the books.
Because I saw a couple vendors that I went to that are now adding 3% or 4%. So I called the credit card company. I couldn't get a direct answer. So I called back and I said, if somebody adds that fee to my credit card, can I appeal it and have it removed? And they said, no, we're allowing it to happen. And I got the answer I was looking for. As long as a vendor tells you that that fee is being added before you charge your card. So otherwise it becomes a he say, they say.
Well,
When I called Visa, I called MasterCard, and I called Discover, and I got the same answer from all three.
Yeah.
so what does that mean as long as the vendor tells you? I mean, a group of us went to the rib place in Ocean City. What the heck's it called? Something,
Yeah, I
some
know,
pretty good ribs.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, right. And it's like a bar hangout place,
Right.
right? So we're sitting there and, having our ribs and drinking a couple beers, that kind, not me, I was drinking iced tea. And this lady comes over with the bill and the guy throws a credit card on and she says, there's a 4% charge on top of that. So is that the kind of,
That's the kind. And what they said is you can wind up with the he say, she said. I wasn't told about it. Yes, we told you about it. So you get into that kind of a debate. The credit card company, originally, when the credit cards first came out, as a vendor, when we were involved in the company I worked for in the past, we were clearly told you can't pass that fee on to a customer. If you
Right.
do, you can't have the card. Well, they've dropped that now. I got into one of the vendors I called, and I don't know if it's Skymaster, it doesn't matter. The clerk that I got a hold of,
and if you were,
oh, it was dumb.
it was a negotiated rate.
Right,
In other words, if you did a lot of volume,
right,
your pullback, as far as the bank was concerned, was 3%,
right.
sometimes 2%, if you were high volume.
I think we paid 1.5% or something at that time. But
And from my experience, what I found out was that what the vendors were doing, that is the business people, they were just inflating their prices by 2 or 3% in order to cover that fee. That's all, but they were eating it. You're absolutely right. They had to absorb that cost.
so by adding it in, the people that are using the credit card, it's okay, but people that pay cash are paying extra. It's the vendors.
Well, that's a capitalist way.
That's what.
That's just the way that system works.
Well, I think the point here is that it's already part of our environment, and it's a
Why not?
past resolution.
What's the holdup? Because it's legal.
Yeah, and so that's, what I would hope to do is just forward to the board and ask them, Because really unless you want to change this, all we're doing is saying we recommend that it become formatted as a formal resolution with no change in terms and conditions and so forth. Then if they want to change it, because legal says we want to look at this to make sure our risk is avoided and so on and so forth, then, then that's a different, it's a different environment altogether. We're not into that part of it. So if you think that's worthwhile, I'll send a note to the board just saying, hey, we want to revisit reformatting this and making it and again, it's not a big issue. It's kind of like, it's just organized. It looks a little more organized, In other words, right now, if somebody asks you, well, what resolution is that?
FO,
Well, it's go to the website.
FO 27? No?
No.
No.
No, that's my whole point. It's not a major issue, I think just for sake of clarity, it's worthwhile. So unless you guys feel differently, I'm gonna go ahead and send a note to the board just and ask them, for a status update and if they could reconsider.
We don't charge that fee for any of the other amenities or anything, do we?
Not to my knowledge. I believe it's just for,
I don't know. I don't use any of the amenities, so therefore
oh, it's only for the annual assessment.
it's only
Yeah.
for annuals. That's what the resolution stated,
Yeah.
that I wasn't sure if it's
Right.
extended beyond that level.
Right, this is for the assessment, and then I guess that's where the notion of discussing it at legal, having the attorneys involved is. What if any options should we have if we wanted to charge a convenience fee for use of a credit card and our other amenities?
Right.
And that's not part of, at least me personally, that's not part of what we need to get into right now. Let them decide what they want to do with that. I don't see any benefit in going down that quote unquote rabbit hole.
No, I agree.
There was something in golf earlier this year when you were paying to participate in Thursday's men's golf thing. There was something about, we're gonna charge you 2% or 3% extra. And then they didn't do it. They changed their mind and did not do it. They were absorbing that 2 or 3% that way. So, but I stopped playing on Thursday, so I don't know what's going on now. But,
Interesting.
I know that question did come up early in the year, that there was a notification to players that were gonna play on Thursdays,
Right.
that they would be charged that extra 3%.
Yeah.
But then they didn't.
Yeah.
So there was a
Yeah,
discussion there anyway.
Yeah, that's to me an operational legal issue. Personally, like I said, I'm not interested in going down that rabbit hole because I don't see it as a real issue. We've stated that there's a 3% convenience fee for assessments. And if operationally the GM and the board want to look at extending that or expanding that into other areas, that's up to them.
Yeah.
And let them and legal, make the right decision going forward.
Wasn't a big deal. It's 3% of $7 is 21 cents.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, here's $7 and here's a quarter, keep it change, it's like, wow, big spender. So anyway, in summary, what we agreed to is I'll just go ahead and send a note to the board, just saying, hey,
do you want to
we're
do?
just recommending this be turned into a formatted resolution, with no changes to the terms and conditions that are already on the books. Okay? All right. Next item on the agenda, the, FY 26-27 budget guidance report. Since you got a draft copy, I asked for your review, feedback, hate mail, anything that was associated with that. Again, having done this last year, pretty much used the same format that we had.
So that was that, you do have you put that together, right?
Yeah.
So solely. You didn't.
Well, I had some information from previous years when I
Yeah,
first took
that's what I mean.
over.
Okay, so there is a
Yeah.
guideline.
Yeah, there was a
You can
basic, I didn't make all
follow,
this
you
up
don't have
myself.
And about the wheel every year.
Yeah, it gets modified every year because of the report that was sent to me when
There's a
I
heck of
first
a lot
took
of
over.
work went into that.
A lot of the stuff was already in there and I just,
Yeah.
I modified from year to year based on, obviously what needs to happen. So, Don, I'm looking at your email. Bud got your suggestion for, the budget guides would be to add road paving and maintenance to number 14. So we go down
Yeah,
number
that just to be
14.
consistent with, the ongoing plan for bulkheads, roads, et cetera.
Okay. Guys have any thoughts on that one? If you look at item number 14. So let's take Don's note and, add, road paving and maintenance. Okay. We'll do that one, and let's see, who else responded? Jack Collins. Investing excess cash and reserves fund in a higher yielding US Treasuries. Huh?
We were kicking it around. I think, Mr. Brown over here was informing us that, we were very active as far as, CDRs are concerned. And at the time we were discussing it, we were talking about 5-year rates being up at 5% for 5 years. I mean, that's a pretty nice yield. And my point was that if we have funds that we're not gonna need for 5 years, that might be something that we should be looking at. Now that these rates are coming down, that's a different story. Maybe you don't want to tie up your money. So, it may be a moot point. But we did discuss it, never went anywhere. I don't know if it's something that should be considered in any kind of guidance or not.
Well, what comes to mind is, yeah, I mean, we're giving recommendations. I don't think, using the word consider, is necessarily translates into must, I think it's probably good for us to at least approach the topic and to say, just as an FYI, and not under the assumption that it's not being done already, which I'm sure is being done already. Remember, we know.
When you look at the breakdown, there are US securities that we carry.
And so maybe we just add an item, just say, please, consider, how would we word it? The idea, you're currently, monitoring, rates for investment, so and so, going to continue to do that. Considerations for the benefits in continuing to do that, something along those lines.
Right.
Kind of espouse, what the good work they're doing already. Yeah. In other words, I really don't want to report to just how things that are, need to be fixed or reconsidered. I think it should be also promoting what's happening that's doing well. It's like, yeah, please continue to do that. It's been successful. So the report should echo that sentiment.
Right.
I think it's just, it's good business sense to do that. All right.
So what I would do is just drop it. Maybe it's not necessary to include it because it's, it changes with the environment.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years from now, US securities may be a very risky bet. We just don't know.
So what's the consensus of the committee? You want to add a paragraph in there or just let it go? It's
It's just a point of discussion and using the brain power sitting in this room I'm not suggesting that go in, just raise it as a point of discussion.
okay. All right. Well, since we're all kind of in agreement that it's a good practice and let's just keep that as kind of, top of mind as we go month to month.
In the back of your mind.
And, just, we can make, I think, a valid assumption that it's being done anyway.
Yeah.
So it might be redundant to say, please.
How's
continue.
everybody else feel about that? Same thing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Good point.
So it was a lousy idea. So,
It's allowed.
There are
these
no-
things happen. You don't win all the
I'm
time.
just so impressed that you responded to the email. And Bob, your response was, everything looks okay. We were in good shape. And then I think I had one more here, from Randy. Oh, here it is, Randy. Tracking of the fire station build process versus funding. Help me understand what we want to do there.
Well, in major construction, something called schedule values and work in progress, whip curves.
Mhm.
Because construction goes like this.
Right.
And it allows you to tell at a very high level how the project is progressing. What schedule, it would also tell you how the budget is doing. That project to me seems like it's right for getting
That
orders.
seems to be more like a major project.
It's a major project, and major
Project,
construction contractors typically do this, what I tried.
What's a project management report? You know, because it tracks where you are, if you're on schedule, not on
Project
schedule.
managers use it, it's a construction.
Yeah,
manager.
construction
But yeah,
managers. We
but
would-
the-
If you look at item 5, that's in our recommendation, analysis must be done to determine what funding mechanisms will be needed to address construction of the new South Fire Station building, especially if they're required or unplanned variances. Do you
I
make,
just didn't know whether you wanted to put any more detail in there, or, I mean, yeah. There has-
how about consideration should be given, well, I mean, if we're looking at some mechanism, maybe the mechanism is some sort of, tracking analysis to make sure that, we're consistent with what was budgeted, because it's gonna take what do you say, 65 weeks? So it's gonna span a fiscal year. And so the question would be,
It's a complicated job.
Yeah.
Looking would be the cost overruns.
Since,
Right, which
If
that
they
would occur.
run into something within the next month.
since they have state funding, they're gonna be able to control it. I mean, here, the finance department does a good job in making sure.
All right, so what I will, since I'm chair, I can task the committee, look at number 5. All right, come up with some verbiage, okay, that we can agree on to modify number 5, since the concept is there. But it sounds to me like what we're saying is maybe we need a little more
Detail.
detail, some more specifics, so on and so forth. So as a committee, I count on you guys, let's throw some verbiage out there, send it to me, and we'll kind of, by email, we'll look back and forth, and then with the specific target of modifying, item number 5 in our budget guidance.
And I know
Okay.
When we just,
Wait a minute, Jerry?
they'll be reporting monthly on different things, but not at maybe this level of detail. Because it comes out in the monthly, our monthly meeting.
It may, I just want to make sure that if it's not, or maybe the answer to the request is saying that information will be presented in this report, in the monthly financial report, versus a separate report that's just tracking the project.
And the other thing to keep in mind probably is there's always unforeseen things. I mean, in every project, especially a major project, but the unforeseen things might be a little bit less since we're rebuilding and not doing renovations. Because renovations
Yeah.
really,
Yeah, you find the oops, I didn't account for
They're
that.
using,
Terrible.
they're using the same site. I think they'll be unforeseen.
Yeah, yes, Bob, you give me,
what's buried underneath.
one at a time, folks, one at a time.
when's this report due?
As I said in my email, I plan on getting this to them by October 31st.
Right, so it has to be done
Yeah.
this week.
So this week, if we could, put something together that we can agree on, that we notified in our budget guide recommendations. Good?
Versus just manually doing, versus Excel spreadsheets and things like that.
I-
There's project management tools.
Since we're not involved in the project, answer would be, no, I'm not interested in that. I'm looking for, a report on the, expenses associated with, that major project.
Tracking.
And just tracking it, and I think that's it's certainly not our responsibility. We just want the information
Okay.
associated with that. I might be back anyway. All right, other items for discussion on our budget guidance recommendations. Everybody has a that was the end of it. Okay, so the takeaway, the summary, the takeaway is just put together some information, on modifying number 5. We'll put it together and then, I will make a, presentation to the board on, all these, 16, budget guidance recommendations.
What was that again? When are you gonna notice, send that to the
I
board?
wanted to send it
31,
by 31st,
still 31.
yeah, which is Friday.
You need time to update it
right.
and all, so we need it before
We
then.
can try to send it.
I'm quick. I can, yeah, just send it to me. I got all this on my, Zoom and done. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. Just I want to make sure that we get it because that way I can, I can get it to them, as part of the process. Okay, next item on the agenda is a discussion of our committee annual report. I shared that with you and, just wanted to make sure that, I didn't leave anything out, I didn't say anything incorrectly. But everybody had a chance to read it, and unless there is something that, anybody wants to suggest we change, modify, add, or delete, I'll take this as the final version, and that's what I'll send forward to the board.
All right.
Good to go? Okay. Next item. Questions around the room, Randy? Frank? Don?
Nope, I'm good.
Jerry?
For me, I thought you said. Sorry, I'm looking at the, no.
Jack?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Good. Bob? Call for the motion for adjournment.
Sure.
There's a second.
Second.
All those in favor? All right. Thanks, everyone. Meeting
All
adjourned.
right. See you guys.
Thanks, Monica.